Salam sejahtera dan bersama saya Rizal Zulkafli dan ini Niaga AWANI. Susulan Sidang Kemuncak ASEAN Khas berkenaan COVID-19 semalam. Niaga AWANI pagi ini ingin menyentuh dua perkara yang disebut dalam deklarasi yang dikeluarkan. Pertama adalah komitmen ASEAN untuk memastikan pasaran ASEAN terus terbuka untuk dagangan dan pelaburan.
Ia menambah kerjasama antara ahli ASEAN dan rakan luar ASEAN akan terus ditingkatkan untuk memastikan antara lain keselamatan bekalan makanan. Tambahnya, ASEAN turut komited untuk menjamin keutuhan dan kemampanan rantaian bekalan barangan lain serantau terutama komoditi, perubatan dan barangan keperluan lain. Dalam masa yang sama, ASEAN juga komited untuk memastikan pelaksanaan langkah meningkatkan keyakinan dan menambah baik kestabilan ekonomi serantau menerusi polisi rangsangan. Tambahnya, langkah akan turut diambil untuk membantu warga dan perniagaan ASEAN yang terkesan akibat COVID-19, terutama perusahaan mikro, kecil dan sederhana. Perkara kedua yang menjadi fokus Niaga AWANI termasuk bagaimana ASEAN akan turut membangunkan pelan pemulihan selepas pandemik untuk berkongsi pengajaran, memulihkan keterhubungan ASEAN, perniagaan biasa dan aktiviti sosial. Ini untuk menghalang kemelesetan ekonomi selepas pemulihan COVID-19.
Dan bersama kita melalui Skype adalah tokoh korporat, pengurusi Bank Muamalat dan juga pengurusi ASEAN Business Advisory Council Malaysia, Tan Sri Dr. Munir Majid. Tan Sri, I've shared with you the statement issued by ASEAN and external partners. Let's focus on the first point. ASEAN is committed to keeping ASEAN's market open for trade and investment and enhance cooperation among ASEAN member states and with ASEAN external partners to ensure food security and strengthen their resiliency and sustainability of regional supply chains, especially for food, commodities, medicines, medical and essential supplies. And last week, ASEAN BAC Malaysia had a meeting. Could you share with us the concerns raised during the meeting and if this declaration issued by ASEAN is enough to address those concerns?
Good morning, Rizal. I think it was the ASEAN Business Advisory Council at the regional level that met last Thursday, actually, where we expressed the concern that there has been no action by ASEAN governments to address, one, of course, the health pandemic. There have been some action, they exchange information and so on. But you would notice from the declaration that you just mentioned, even on healthcare, they talked about to look into the possibility of setting up an experts group. This is not health matters, just possibility, right? Which is not fast enough, it's not quick enough. And then on the second point, which is your first point to mention, they talk about explore arrangements to ensure that trade is not inhibited and so on and so forth. Words like possibility and explore do not, to me, impart a sense of urgency. So, urgency must be there. The ASEAN Business Advisory Council feels, this is our regional level meeting last week, that sense of urgency, that sense of implementation of what's stated in policy or statements like the one we had on the 14th at the special summit must be implemented. So this special summit actually also referred to a statement, a communique made by the ASEAN economic ministers when they met on the 10th of March. The wording that was used actually came from that statement by the ASEAN economic ministers. So from the 9th of March to the 14th of April, what has happened? We're still looking into having arrangements. So this is the problem. Movement, nicely crafted communique, but execution, that is what we want. And this morning, I've been in communication with the ASEAN Business Advisory Council, the executive director, and also with the Philippines, my Philippines counterpart. I think we wanted to submit something to the ASEAN leaders before the meeting on yesterday on the 14th. But we were told it's too late, the usual thing. And now, we are going to meet to discuss again today to see, this thing about, looking into arrangements and exploring possibilities is not good enough. You've got to move fast. And the ASEAN leaders were supposed to have met, actually, this month, this April. And yesterday's, that was 36th ASEAN Summit. And yesterday's meeting was called a special ASEAN Summit. Well and good, doesn't matter what it's called. But I think I would like to see in a couple of months, or in a month, a couple of months meaning two, that you follow up on those words. This is the problem with ASEAN. You don't follow up on nicely crafted words, on well-scripted interventions by ASEAN leaders at the ASEAN summits. And therefore, the follow-up is what is sadly and always lacking in ASEAN.
And Tan Sri, the statement also uses the word or the term encourage, and it says that encourage the development of a post-pandemic recovery plan to share lessons learned, restore ASEAN's connectivity, tourism, normal business and social activities, prevent potential economic downturns. And on restoring economic or domestic confidence post-COVID-19 is one thing. What does it take to restore ASEAN's economic activities on a regional level post-COVID-19? How can organizations like ASEAN BAC help, and what are some of the regional business as usual practices that are principles that we have to maybe leave behind post-COVID-19?
Now, the thing is, I would have wanted to have seen a flourish in the ASEAN statement saying that we are facing a serious problem. Global demand is down. We must ensure that regional cooperation, regional trade is enhanced, and we will make sure, this is the ASEAN leaders speaking, we will make sure that non-tariff barriers and inhibitions to free movement of trade are actually removed. And we have been going on for the longest time, me particularly, about the non-tariff barriers that have been creeping up. Now, will there be problems in the movement of goods? There already are problems in the movement of goods because of the disruption in supply chains. Everybody talks about this disruption in supply chains. How are we going to ensure that this disruption is actually stopped or actually smoothened over? Now, has anybody come up with any suggestions to do so? What can we do? Okay, you say, what would we do? I would suggest we explore, that we actually try to implement a joint platform, a common platform, whereby all suppliers are named. So you have a common platform where all the suppliers of all types of goods, services are named so that manufacturers who are not getting supplies can try and accede to new suppliers because the old suppliers are bankrupt or not coming up with goods because of lockdowns and stuff like that, so that they look at new suppliers and look at their price, their cost, and to see whether it makes sense for these manufacturers to source the supplies from those new suppliers. That's point number one. So you need data for people to know where they can source supplies when supplies are disrupted, alternative sources of supplies. Now, point number two, with clampdown policies in different parts of ASEAN, of course, some countries in ASEAN, particularly the CLNV countries, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam, particularly, the extent of the pandemic is quite limited. Even Brunei, for example, has 0 deaths, right? So they might be more open. Their economies might be more open, whereas countries like the Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia, which is creeping up in terms of the numbers, because only now they are testing people, but Indonesia is a time bomb there. But, these countries have got lockdowns. So their ports are clogged, outward, inward. They are opening up again slowly, like Malaysia is today. And now, these unclogging movement of essential goods, medical supplies and so on, food, should be eased. And as Malaysia is easing, are other countries doing the same at their ports and so on? Are the countries which are not affected by the pandemic already open? They have lots of problems. People have problems getting into the Vietnamese market. So these words sound so beautiful, and everyone gets carried away and gets attracted by this statement of intent. It's execution, and ASEAN leaders cannot just say and leave it until November now, when they're next due to meet. for the 37th summit. They should say, we're going to come back in a month, no more than 2 months, to see what's happening on the ground.
And Tan Sri,
so far,
Tan Sri, apologies for disrupting you. But Tan Sri, briefly, a yes or no question. Are you optimistic that maybe ASEAN or something will be achieved in 1 or 2 months? A yes or no question. Looking at what happened with AEC, ASEAN Economic Council, a community, ASEAN Economic Community, are you optimistic that something will actually happen in 1 or 2 months?
ASEAN lacks leadership. I think the Vietnamese style of leadership is also so very collegiate, even more collegiate than the ASEAN style of leadership, which is collegiate enough. So somebody must take the lead and say, look, we have to review what we said we were going to do in a month's time, in 2 months' time. Now, the fact of the matter is the world is not going to change in 2 months' time in the sense of the economy. I mean, every global demand, I mean, 2/3 of the world has gone down. Therefore, ASEAN must make it a point to see demand generated at the regional level. I think the Singapore Prime Minister mentioned the need to sign the RCEP now, so that the regional cooperation economic partnership is actually also there. So this is a statement that was made at the ASEAN Plus 3, i.e. ASEAN plus China, Japan, and Korea. And this will create a bigger regional market to excite greater demand. Not displace, but at least to some extent compensate for the global demand that is going to be deflated. So ASEAN should say, well, let's do all this, guys. You know, that's the market that we have. We have to work together and make sure we don't inhibit each other's goods and services from moving where they are inhibited. And particularly now, in terms of medical supplies, food, and other essential items, you know, make sure there is no such thing.
Okay.
Go back, come back, check on this. In the meanwhile, you know, let's see whether there can be. What's happened, you know, now is so very clear that online trading, online business will become the order of the day. Also very clear that logistics is extremely important. How goods are moved and so on. So logistical choke points should be removed. No customs, checks that are going to really make life difficult for businessmen.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tan Sri Dr. Munir Majid, tokoh korporat, pengurusi Bank Muamalat dan juga pengurusi ASEAN Business Advisory Council Malaysia, memberikan komen berkenaan dengan deklarasi yang dikeluarkan susulan daripada Sidang Kemuncak Khas ASEAN berkenaan dengan COVID-19. Lepas ini kita lihat pasaran domestik pula, bagaimana perniagaan harus bersedia untuk peringkat ataupun tempoh pasca PKP. Kita beri berehat seketika, kembali selepas ini.